Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History.
This is pure white marble. You should be very careful, Miss Francon, to accept nothing but a stone of the same quality. This is Alabama marble, very high grade, very hard to find.
Hi, I'm Doug Phillips, and I'm here today at the Alabama Museum of Natural History. And like any great natural history museum, it's a wonderful place to consider how we came to be where we are today and where we might be headed. And because it's the Alabama Museum of Natural History, it's a wonderful place to consider one more of the unique phenomena of nature that makes our state special. Alabama alone can claim this remarkable material which we take from our earth and give to the world. Practical, beautiful, industrial, spiritual. Come along with me, won't you? Come along as we visit the Alabama Museum of Natural History and explore the uniquely Alabama phenomenon known as Sylacauga Marble. This program is about a land unknown to many people, a land that in many ways has maintained its native natural wonders, a place of bountiful backcountry, forests, streams, and wildlife more diverse than can be found in much of the inhabited world. Come along with me as we explore the wild wonders of this land. Come along as we discover Alabama. Welcome to Discovering Alabama, and welcome to the Alabama Museum of Natural History. Located in Smith Hall on the University of Alabama campus, this is one of the earliest museums of natural history in the nation. Discovering Alabama is proud to call the Alabama Museum of Natural History our home. Our offices are located here, and if you come in the front door and look to your left, you'll discover a few artifacts representing the history of discovering Alabama. If you come in the front door and glance to your right, you'll find a very interesting mosaic of marbles from around the world. Amazing, isn't it? The many patterns, the many textures, the many shades, tones, colors. Yet, one shines through. Sylacauga Marble. It really does outshine all the rest. Is it any wonder then that artists from around the world have reached into this Alabama marble to find heart and soul? The talent it takes to look into a block of Sylacauga marble and find a child truly amazes me. And I have to admit, it also amazes me how scientists can look into the essence of this substance and find, believe it or not, relief for heartburn. Yes, at its chemical level, marble is calcium carbonate. The medicinal, commercial, and industrial uses of calcium carbonate are far too many to enumerate. For almost 2 centuries now, the imaginations of artists, scientists, and entrepreneurs have been sparked by this snowy white substance buried beneath the soils around Sylacauga, Alabama. While the cultural history of marble can be traced back a couple of hundred years, the natural history goes back much, much deeper in time.
In Alabama, the Sylacauga Marble records, the geologic history of this area. And it started with, the deposition of that particular rock in a carbonate bank reef on the continental margin. And that was, 500 million years ago. So it involves deposition, and then layer upon layer was put on top of that. And eventually it incurs plate tectonics, where it was moved northward to our present position and development of the Appalachian Mountains. And then eventually, you have erosion to get to the present level of the Sylacauga Marble. So what we're looking at now is over 500 million years later.
Marble is a metamorphic rock that is produced by the effects of heat and high pressure on limestone. And it is a fairly common rock type, but the one thing that makes marble sort of unique in Alabama is there are areas in Alabama that at one time had very, very pure limestones. And when those were metamorphosed, we ended up with a very, very pure marble.
The pure marble, the pure beauty, caught the attention of humans as far back as we can know.
As far as we know, the first people to actually notice the outcroppings of marble were the Shawnee Indians, who came down from the Ohio area in the late 1700s. And shortly after they got here, they became part of the Creek Confederation in Alabama. And from that point, Edward Gant, for whom Gant's Quarry is named, was the regimental surgeon for Andrew Jackson's troops when he brought the Tennessee militia in to fight those the Creek Confederacy. And I don't think there's any doubt that he also noticed the marble outcropping. He went back to Tennessee, but as soon as they opened up the land offices in the early 1830s, he began to buy up land in the Sylacauga area.
When our first geologist did his first report, his chapter 1 discussed Sylacauga marble. There was, such interest in it. So he was the first to start describing the geologic occurrence. And he, even in the 1840s, remarked that it compared well with the finest Italian marble. So that got interest in setting up quarrying operations. And after his report came out in 1850, it was just a little over a decade later that the first company, the Talladega Marble Company, was incorporated by the Alabama legislature. And there's been a continuous operation for mining marble probably since the 1840s, when production was first reported, and we continue to have production up to this day.
Throughout the 19th century and on into the 20th, Sylacauga marble was put to some very practical uses. The stairs here at the Alabama Museum of Natural History, for example, were placed around 1908. In the early days of the 20th century, about the same time these stairs were being constructed, the beauty of Sylacauga marble became known for more than practical application. Credit for recognizing the inherent artistic beauty often goes to Italian sculptor Giuseppe Moretti.
He actually came to Birmingham originally to do the casting of the Vulcan statue, which is one of the largest cast iron statues in the world. But while he was here, someone showed him a piece of marble from the Gant's Quarry area, and he was so impressed with it. He had been involved with marble sculpture in Europe before he came here. And he immediately wanted to go see where that came from. And when he did, he brought back a piece that was large enough to carve the head of Christ, which is still in the Alabama archives in Montgomery. It's a beautiful piece. And in fact, it was his favorite. He carried it with him everywhere he went throughout his life.
Throughout the 20th century, the artistic and utilitarian values of Sylacauga marble were widely known.
This is Alabama marble, very high grade, very hard to find.
As late as the mid-20th century, families made their homes at the Gant's Quarry Company Village.
It was just a way of making a living. That's what my daddy had done, was working around the marble quarries. He had run machines in both of them, and they had, you know, all the facilities you needed out there. But we had the school, and we had a store, and we had churches, and had the houses, different types. But we'd always lived at the quarries when he worked there, so we enjoyed it. I always enjoyed there. We could go anywhere you wanted to anybody's house, you know. You were welcome. You weren't afraid to go. It's just a good place.
Here in the Alabama Museum of Natural History, much of our ancient past and not so ancient past are on display. This is a wonderful place to explore how our state's natural history has influenced our cultural history. And here we find a perfect metaphor for the value of Sylacauga marble. At once beautiful and practical, the marble provides a base, a foundation for the pillars that support this grand gallery.
Quarries have been here. We've all grown up with the quarries being here, but I guess we've always kind of took it for granted. We all knew that they were there, but we kind of took it for granted. We didn't realize what it did for our economy, and so we're trying now to maybe capitalize a little more on the marble than we have in the past, and you know, try to showcase it a lot more than we have, and you know, let people know what we've got here.
This is our unique resource, and we're not sitting on a lake, we're not on a big interstate, we don't have a powerful technical presence, but we have marble, and we have fabulous marble. It's 32 miles long seam, it's 1.5 miles wide, it's 400 feet deep. It's beautiful marble, a very plentiful resource. So that's our claim to fame.
Because of the lack of impurities in it, it tends to be very, very white, very finely crystalline, and it is almost 100% calcium carbonate. And it has a number of uses that many people perhaps don't appreciate. Because it is so pure, it can be ground up into powder and used as an additive in bread. If you see calcium-enriched bread, in many cases that is because it has calcium carbonate in it, and some of that calcium carbonate comes from Alabama marble. It can also be used in antacids. It can be used as an additive in paint. It can be used as a fertilizer. It has a variety of different uses based on the fact that it is so pure.
The untold uses of calcium carbonate have led to a new understanding of the beauty of Sylacauga marble.
The beauty of marble, or the marble that we have here, is that we don't have to worry about it closing up and moving to South America. It's here, and you can only get it here, and what we won't do is like we happened in the textile industry, that it closed down eventually because of foreign competition. We're not going out of business. And that's extremely important from a standpoint of building stable communities, a standpoint of building a stable economy.
I started out my career in the plant, you know, stacking bags, shoveling rocks, and has just progressed on since then through the production stages and now back into the mining group. I think the mining operation here has been a really big asset for Sylacauga. I think mainly the marble body itself being located here. It's not like you can just go somewhere else and just instantly grab a hold to the marble. Throughout my course of years, even when things have been really slow and the economy was down, the mining industry has been supplying stone. I think we have a real good diversified product line that kind of goes into summer in and everything, so we just really haven't fell them as hard as some of the others.
Sylacauga, indeed all of Alabama, can be rightfully proud of the industry that takes from our earth and gives to the world. And just a few short years ago, the city began to celebrate in ways that would make Giuseppe Moretti proud.
Our Marble Festival started in 2009, and you probably have heard us say that we were involved in a cultural exchange through the Alabama State Council on the Arts with Pietrasanta, Italy. That first year, we had 19 people come in from Italy to celebrate with us, they brought a world-class opera singer, a dance troupe. We just had a great time. And had our first sculptor to do We're All on the Same Boat, which we're so proud of. That festival has grown every year. The outcomes have been tremendous. We wouldn't have dreamed that we would now have a resident sculptor. We have beautiful sculpture that was paid for by the companies on our City Hall grounds. We have numerous pieces in the library that people can come by and see.
Sylacauga Emerging began with Dr. Spears and I sitting down, and the Sylacauga Arts Council had a budget, and they were looking for public works to place around, well, actually on the city complex grounds. And they had a block that was 7 feet by 3 feet by 3 feet, which is roughly 15,000 pounds. And so those were my parameters, just basically the block. They had already purchased it. So he and I spoke, and really trying to figure out what represented marble in Sylacauga. And I came up with the idea of man or a quarry worker carving himself out of the block, similar to the city, re-emerging in, hopefully, in the marble industry in the future. And through a series of drawings and sketches, got his approval. Then we had to talk about budgets and what they could do, what I could do, and as soon as we came to agreement, we set up a location out by the City Works building and went to work on 15,000 pounds of marble.
Because of the library and because of the community, what you now have is a partnership between Imerus and Amya and others in the community and the library to create a balance between those two things. You have the industry, which is vitally important, but you also have the creativity and the sculptors coming back and using the stone in beautiful ways.
We're blessed. We have something that is unique to us. It's here. It won't go away like Avondale did. It's here. So I think that we're going to see more and more pride in the resource that we have that is ours.
Art from the earth. It's a tradition here in Alabama that we know from archaeology predates European settlement by hundreds, if not thousands of years. And like any time-honored custom, it's a tradition that should be passed from one generation to the next.
So, like I said, all marble would be pure white like this if those other elements weren't in it.
With the school programs that we're doing in Sylacauga and getting the marble in the schools and exposing the children to, the beauties and the different properties of the stone in Sylacauga, my goal with that hopefully is that, later on, when they're off in a wide range of different careers, and that they'll remember the stone and at the same time have an appreciation for it. Who knows, the next Michelangelo may be at Sylacauga High School right now.
I don't think we have anything any more important that's come out of the festival in many ways than having a sculptor on site. There's something just amazing to the public, adults and children, about seeing that process, there is no way to communicate anything quite so well as someone being able to see it happening. There's just something about that experience. You could read about sculpture all day long, and you could look at pictures even of somebody sculpting, but to be able to walk up and talk to the sculptor and to see him actually doing the work with whatever tool he's choosing to do it with, I think that's a remarkable learning experience that would be hard to duplicate in any other way.
You know, it's probably more important than even we realize, but yet the fact that these kids can come around and watch sculptors at work, they are fascinated with the concept that people can really do marvelous things if they're willing to learn or if they're willing to know about it. At very least, it's bringing an awareness in the minds of these children what art really is and what opportunities they might have. And we think that out there's some budding artists that obviously, according to the parents, this is set some of them on fire, and so we've regenerated an interest in the artistic component and the educational component and the fact that, hey, actually throughout the world, some of the most beautiful artifacts are marble.
Earth to art, earth to industry. The Renaissance happening in Sylacauga, Alabama celebrates both and is a wonderful reminder for all of us across the state of how our cultural history and our natural history are inexorably intertwined.
Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History, the University of Alabama. This program is supported by grants from the Solon and Martha Dixon Foundation, the Alabama Wildlife Federation, working for wildlife since 1935, the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, State Lands Division, the Alabama Humanities Foundation, a state program of the National Endowment for the Humanities, Central Alabama Electric Cooperative, and the Geological Survey of Alabama.